Hi, I'm Matt Hernandez, and this is Book Chat with You. Let me do a little bit of an introduction. I'm actually starting this all over again because I did not know how to make the camera show. It was showing on the bottom left, well, on my end on the bottom left, but not on the actual screen here. So I'm still learning how some of these things go, how some of these things work. So, to give a bit of an introduction to myself, and I'm quite new at this whole thing. I do apologize. I'm clicking on the background on YouTube to see if this thing is kind of working and whatnot. I don't really know how to use some of this stuff, so I am learning a bit. It does seem like it's showing on there as well. Whole thing. I Yep, and with a short delay at that. Okay, well, I'm Matt Hernandez, and yeah, I'm a little tired. I hope I don't look too tired. So eventually, I'd like to do some live streams like this to chat about stories, to chat about, well, books or that kind of thing. For right now, I am just probably going to sit here for about 50 minutes and read a book. I'm already eating up part of the time that I would have allotted today to do this because, well, I just did a bit of a live stream and, you know, it didn't really go through because I didn't have the camera properly showing myself back a few minutes ago. A little embarrassed by that. So, so my goal with this is to try to create a community where we can try to chat about books together. This book chat with you would be the third official-ish name change that I've gone through with this. 4 years ago, I created about 10 of these videos and I stopped this project. I really regret that now, amongst maybe many other things, because who knows how far I would get with this. I'd have to see that it would take me a long while to try to build anything with this. It would take a long while to do so because, well, who am I? I'm like nobody to like anybody right now. And I know that it would take a long time to build some kind of audience, especially with what I'd want to do. I think right now I'd want to hyper focus on short stories. And one big reason for that is because some of my old book reviews are kind of like irrelevant in a sense. Like it was just whatever book for a little bit. Another thing is that some of the books were like children's books, and looking at it later on, I had to partition those off from everything else. There's a few other reasons that just hyper focus on short stories. Frankly, if I was able to read like maybe a lot of young adult ish novels, or maybe some kind of contemporary nonfiction, but then is that always something to chat about? I don't think it's going to have content to try to talk at the audience. I mean, um, just this morning while making breakfast and stuff, it's still morning time here. Early afternoon ish, right? But here, I I was watching some content that's right tries to tell me what to do or how to live my life or whatever like that. But I don't think it's I don't think we need that everywhere in our lives. And I would hope to provide a space where we can have one space, at least one space, where we can form some kind of community or whatever. And it's not just about people telling us what to do and how to live and whatnot. Well, I don't really know what else to do on this live stream at the moment. I'm sure that what I'd said a few minutes ago, that maybe I forgot a word or two to say for right now, but maybe I could just read a book for a while, and I can hope that somebody shows up. And if nobody shows up, then at least this still serves as yet another video that I can leave up. Now, what I think I'll read, at least one full story here, is from the San Fransisco Thrillers, just a lot of detective noir stories. And I'm going to read probably just maybe the first story or so. And how long have we been on right now? 5 minutes? Less than 5 minutes? So let's see how long it takes me to read through this whole story. Oh my gosh. window cleaner just scared the hell out of me. Window cleaner just came and just jumped on the wall and just started he's cleaning the window right now. Scared the hell out of me. Okay, so and I mean, I'll admit also, I don't believe I'm the greatest reader, but I also don't believe that every other person in this space is also the greatest reader. I don't believe that they're also the greatest reader because, I don't know, when people make videos about 30 books in 25 minutes, how well did they maybe read all those books? I can't brag or anything because who knows if it'll happen, but I have a bit of an opportunity to change career. And if there's any possibility of that, I need to study a lot about international trade, logistics, international shipping, and this kind of thing. So when I already have this book that gives me a bit of a tertiary knowledge of this stuff, but I already have other books more directly on this now, such as this one here, American Wheels, Chinese Roads. And it's kind of eye-opening. And I mean, I've always heard about some of the stuff this book outlines in this book, but not everything. So as I go through this and as I learn more, as I read this book, if we always just read something, and I can't speak for you. I mean, as far as I see, nobody's watching this live stream. But I cannot speak for you. You might be an excellent, a wonderful reader. I do not know you. You might be a much better reader than I am. But then I think for a lot of people, it takes time to be able to fully comprehend something unless we're just reading it just for our own personal entertainment. But then if somebody wants to go and they want to, and I never noticed, my eyes look kind of black on this, huh? Look at that on the camera. My eyes don't really look brown on this. I just get so amazed. Like my son's eyes, both of their eyes, they're like so black. It's like, how did that happen? Like I hope that my son's eye color would be like one shade or two lighter brown than mine, but nope. I believe one of my nieces and a nephew has like blue eyes and like green-gray eyes, and it's like, man, look at that. It looks so black on this. Maybe I should go and just get the light and just shine it like right into my eyes, like from my phone. But then my eyes will become dilated, and that'll look kind of crazy too, huh? I wouldn't really want that, My goodness. But then if we want to talk about something, we want to explain something with somebody else, maybe we have to read it many times. So it looks like this week, the only video I might have made for these platforms this time, because I'm also working on trying to put these things on podcast. And it takes a long time. I mean, yesterday I went to make a Discord and figuring out how to make a Discord. I mean, I've used one for a long time. I have the locals here. And if I, just go to read this book, well, I mean, of course we're going to be able to read faster silently than out loud. But I mean, it takes time to be able to fully digest it. And so one reason to focus on short stories, as I begin to think about it, is hopefully one day I can build some kind of community. And that if I can build some kind of community, oh my goodness, should I let my dog in? I probably should, huh? I mean, nobody's watching this. It's just me. And when I see they're on Rumble and Locals, those are probably both just me also, right? Because, I mean, if anybody was here, I'd be able to see a chat, right? So, I mean, there's no chats, so it's just me. I should just let this dog in this room, huh? Yes, Betsy. But if we want to be able to talk about something like some kind of book, I mean, maybe we have to read it many times, I mean, if we go to the movies, it might be best to go to the movies in the, and in the mid-afternoon, late afternoon, rather than going like at night. That way you can talk about it afterwards. And I don't think I want a lot of my videos to be very performative. I think a lot of that stuff probably performs better sometimes, right? If you get some kind of nice editing and that type of thing. But I don't know if that's what it's always about. Maybe a lot of authenticity and being patient, taking one's time with these things. Well, with all that said, since I'm trying to hyper focus on short stories, and since one reason for that to be is so that way it becomes very approachable for me and an audience, because otherwise, it is feasibly possible to make 3 videos slash podcasts a week doing short videos. And some of these contents or some of these previous videos, I'm going to have to redo 100% anyways. But but um, if I just, it is feasible to do that, but then I also want something that's feasible for an audience that like, if we find a story, short enough story, 3 to 25 page long story, and of course, I mean that varies by the paper, but you get the gist of what I mean, and then somebody could always want to join in and chat about the story too, and then it's not just me telling you what I think about books. Because there's a few YouTubers, I like some of their book content, but I might not read the book, so it kind of obscures me sort of looking at it. I guess that doesn't stop me with some gaming content that I'll look at the stuff about the game, even if I don't plan on playing the game. So, but nevertheless, it's kind of how I feel. And I do think that these things should be things that we can talk about, that we can learn from each other. I mean, if you ask me how my day was or what's going on, I may not have speeches for you about that. But if we read something in relation to how my day goes, we read some kind of article about living overseas, then maybe we enjoy our time together that way. So, yeah. Okay, with all that said, and me still having 0 people watching this, I'm going to start reading the first short story in this book, San Fransisco Thrillers, a bunch of noir detective stories. And then I'm going to read the first story in here. It's A Lousy World by Bill Pronzini. And it says on the bottom of this first page of the story, award-winning author Bill Pronzini is one of San Francisco's most popular and successful mystery novelists. First published in 1968, his story It's a Lousy World marks the first appearance of the nameless detective. A character who appeared in 22 of Pronzini's 40 novels. Okay, let me move this camera a bit, and then I will read. Then I'll read this here. It's a Lousy World, Bill Pronzini. Collie Babcock was shot to death on the night of September 9th in an alley between 29th and Valley Streets in the Glen Park district of San Francisco. 2 police officers cruising spotted him coming out of the rear door of Budget Liquors there, carrying a metal box. Collie ran when he saw them. The officers gave chase, calling out for him to halt, but he just kept running. One of the cops fired a warning shot, and when Collie didn't heed it, the officer pulled up and fired again. He was aiming low, trying for the legs, but in the half-light of the alley, it was a blind shot. The bullet hit Collie in the small of his back and killed him instantly. I read about him the following morning over coffee and undercooked eggs in the cafeteria on Taylor Street, a block and a half from my office. The store was in an inside page, concise and dispassionate. They teach that kind of objective writing in the journalism classes, just the cold facts. A man dies, but he's nothing more than a statistic, a name in black type, faceless nonentity, to be considered then forgotten along with your breakfast coffee, unless you knew him, unless he was your friend. Very carefully, I folded the newspaper and put it into my coat's pocket. Then I stood from the table, went out to the street. The wind was up, blowing in off the bay. Rubble swirled and eddied into the Tenderloin gutters. The air smelled of salt and dark rain of human pollution. I walked into the face of the wind toward my office. How's the job calling? Oh, fine, just fine. No problems? No, none at all. Stick with it, Collie. Sure, I'm a new man. Straight all the way? Straight all the way. Inside the lobby of my building, I found an out-of-order sign taped to the closed elevator doors. Yeah, that figured. I went around to the stairs, up to the second floor, and along the hallway to my office. The door was unlocked, standing open a few inches. I tensed when I saw it like that, and reached out with the tips of my fingers and pushed it all the way open. But there was no trouble. The woman sitting in the chair in front of my desk had never been trouble for anyone. Collie Babcock's window. I moved inside, shut the door, and crossed toward her. Hello, Lucille. Her hands were clasped tightly in the lap of a plain black dress. She said, the man down the hall, the CPA, he let me in. He said you wouldn't mind. I don't mind. You heard, I guess, about Collie? Yes, I said. What can I say, Lucille? You were his friend. You helped him. Maybe I didn't help him enough. He didn't do it, Lucille said. He didn't steal that money. He didn't do all those robberies they're saying. Lucille, Collie and I were married 31 years, she said. Don't you think I would have known? I did not say anything. I always knew, she said. I sat down, looking at her. She was a big woman, handsome, a strong woman. There was strength in the line of her mouth and in her eyes, round and gray, tinged with red now from the crying. She had stuck by Collie through 2 prison terms and 20-odd years of running and hiding and looking over her shoulder. Yes, I thought, she would have known. But I said the paper said Collie was coming out of the back door of the liquor store carrying a metal box. The police found $106 in the box, and the door jimmied open. I know what the paper said, but I know what and I know what the police are saying, but they're wrong. Wrong. He was there, Lucille. I know that, she said. Collie liked to walk in the evenings. A long walk and then a drink when he came home. It helped him to relax. That was how he came to be there. I shifted position in my chair, not speaking. Lucille said, Collie was always nervous when he was doing burglaries. That's one of the ways I can tell. He'd get irritable, and he couldn't sleep. He wasn't like that lately? You saw him a few weeks ago, she said. Did he look that way to you? No, I said, he didn't. We were happy, Lucille said. No more running, and no more waiting. We were truly happy. My mouth felt dry. What about his job? They gave Collie a raise last week, a $15 raise. We went to dinner to celebrate, down on the wharf. Were you getting along all right on what he made? I said. Nothing came up. Nothing. We even had a little bank account started. She bit her lower lip. We were going to Hawaii next year, or the year after. Collie always wanted to go to Hawaii. I looked at my hands. They seemed big and awkward, resting on the desktop. I took them away and put them in my lap. These Glen Park robberies started a month and a half ago, I said. The police estimate the total amount taken at close to $5,000. You can get to Hawaii pretty well on that kind of money. Collie didn't do those robberies, she said. What could I say? God knew, and Lucille knew, that Collie had never been a saint, but this time she was convinced he'd been innocent. Nothing, it seemed, was going to change her eyes. I got a cigarette from my pocket and made a thing of lighting it. The smoke added more dryness to my mouth without looking at her. I said, What do you want me to do, Lucille? I want you to prove Collie didn't do what they're saying he did. I'd like nothing better, you know that. But how can I do it? The evidence. Damn the evidence! Her mouth trembled with the sudden emotion. Collie was innocent, I tell you. I won't have buried him with this last mark against his name. I won't have it. Lucille, listen to me. I won't listen, she said. Collie was your friend. You stood up for him with the parole board. You helped him find his job. You talked to him. You gave him guidance. He was a different man, a new man, and you helped make him that way. Will you sit there and tell me you believe he threw it all away for $5,000? I didn't say anything. I still could not meet her eyes. I stared down at the burning cigarette in my fingers, watching the smoke rise, curling a gray spiral in the cold air of the office. Or, you don't care whether he was innocent or not, she said. I care, Lucille. Then help me. Find out the truth. All right, I said. Her anger and grief, and her absolute certainty that Collie had been innocent, had finally got through to me. I could not have turned her down now, if there had been 10 times the evidence there was. All right, Lucille, I'll see what I can do. It was drizzling when I got to the Hall of Justice. Some of the chill had gone out of the air, but the wind was stronger now. The clouds overhead looked black and swollen, ready to burst. I parked my car on Bryant Street, went past the sycamores on the narrow front lawn, up the concrete steps and inside. The plainclothes detective division, General Works, was on the 4th floor. I took the elevator. Eberhardt had been promoted to lieutenant not long ago and had his own private office now, but I caught myself glancing over toward his old desk, force of habit. It had been a while since I had visited him at the hall. He was in and willing to see me. When I entered his office, he was shuffling through some reports and scowling. He was my age, pushing 50, and he seemed to have been fashioned of an old contrast of sharp angles and smooth, blunt planes, square forehead, sharp nose and chin, and thick, blocky upper body, long legs, and angular hands. Today he was wearing a brown suit that hadn't been pressed in a month. His tie was crooked, there was a collar button missing from his shirt, and he had a fat purplish bruise over his left eye. All right, he said, make it quick. What happened to your eye? I bumped into a doorknob. Sure you did. Yeah, he said. You come here to pass the time of day, or was there something? I like a favor, Eb. Sure. And I'd like 3 weeks vacation. I want to look at an officer's felony report. Are you nuts? Get the hell out of here. The words didn't mean anything. He was always gruff and grumpy while he was working, and we'd been friends for more years than either of us cared to remember, ever since we went through the police academy together after World War II, and then joined the force here in the city. I said, there was a shooting last night. 2 squad cars killed a man running away from the scene of a burglary in Glen Park. So, the victim was a friend of mine. He gave me a look. Since when do you have burglars for friends? His name was Collie Babcock, I said. He did 2 stretches in San Quentin, both for robbery. I helped send him up the first time. I also helped him get on parole the second time and into a decent job. I remember the name. I also heard about the shooting last night. Too bad this pal of yours turned bad again. But then a lot of them do, as if you didn't know. I was silent. I get it, Eberhardt said. You don't think so. That's why you're here. Collie's wife doesn't think so. I guess maybe I don't either. I can't let you look at any reports, and even if I could, it's not my department. Robbery will be handling it. Internal affairs, too. You could pull some strings. I could, he said, but I won't. I'm up to my ass in work. I just won't have the time. I got on my feet. Well, thanks anyway, Eb. I went to the door, put my hand on the knob, but before I turned, it made a noise behind me. I turned. If things go all right, he said, scowling at me, I'll be off duty in a couple of hours. If I happen to get down by robbery on the way out, maybe I'll stop in. Maybe. I'd appreciate it if you would. Give me a call later, at home. Thanks, Eb. Yeah, he said. So what are you standing there for? Get the hell out of here and let me work. I found Toby Belknap in a bar called Luigi's out in the Mission District. He was drinking whiskey at the long bar, leaning his head on his arms and staring out the window, at the wall. I am so tired right now. I did not get enough sleep last night. I really, really didn't. Okay, I really, really didn't. I fasted last night. Or all of yesterday. I didn't eat yesterday. And then I went to sleep a little late trying to fix something in the living room. And then my sons happened to wake up a little bit earlier than I would have preferred. Okay, here I continue. I found Tommy Belknap in a bar called Luigi's out in the Mission District. He was drinking whiskey at the long bar, leaning his head on his arms and staring at the wall. Two men in work clothes were drinking beer and eating sandwiches from lunch pails at the other end, and in the middle of an old lady in a black shawl sipped red wine from a glass held with arthritic fingers. I sat on a stool next to Tommy and said hello. He turned his head slowly, his eyes moving upward. His face was anemic white, and his bald head shone with beaded perspiration. He had trouble focusing his eyes. He swiped them with the back of one veiled hand. He was pretty drunk, and I was pretty sure I knew why. Hey, he said when he recognized me, have a drink, will you? Not just now. He got his glass to his lips with shaky hands, managed to drink without spilling any of the whiskey. Collie's dead, he said. Yeah, I know. They killed him last night, Tommy said. They shot him in the back. Take it easy, Tommy. He was my friend. He was my friend, too. Collie was a nice guy. Lousy goddamn cops had no right to shoot him like that. He was robbing a liquor store, I said. Hell, he was, Tommy said. He swiveled on the stool and pushed a finger at my chest. Collie was straight, you hear me? You hear that? Just like me. Ever since we both got out of Q. You sure about that, Tommy? Damn right I am. Then who did those burglaries in Glen Park? How should I know? Come on, you get around, you know people, you hear things. There must have been something on the Erie. Nothing, he said. Don't know. Kids? I said. Street punks? Don't know. But it wasn't Collie. You'd know if it was Collie. Collie was straight, Tommy said. And now he's dead. He put his head down on his arms again. The bartender came over. He was a fat man with a reddish handlebar mustache. You can't sleep here, Tommy, he said. You ain't even supposed to be here while you're on parole. Collie's dead, Tommy said, and there were tears in his eyes. Let him alone, I said to the bartender. I can't have him sleeping in here. I took out my wallet and put a $5 bill on the bar. Give him another drink, and then let him sleep it off in the back room. The rest of the money's for you. The bartender looked at me, looked at the fin, looked at Tommy. All right, he said. What the hell? Then I went out into the rain. D.E. O'Meara and Company, Wholesale Plumbing Supplies, was a big two-story building that took up 3/4 of a block on Berry Street, out near China Basin. I parked in front and went inside. In the center of a good-sized office was a switchboard wall in glass with a card taped to the front that said information. A dark-haired girl wearing a set of headphones was sitting inside. And when I asked her if Mr. Templeton was in, she said that he was in a meeting uptown and wouldn't be back all day. Mr. Templeton was the office manager, the man I'd spoken to about giving Collie Babcock a job when he was paroled from San Quentin. Collie had worked in the warehouse and was his immediate supervisor was a man I had never met named Harlan. I went through a set of swig doors opposite the main entrance, down a narrow, dark passage, screened on both sides. My left arm, when I emerged from the warehouse, on my left, when I emerged into the warehouse, was a long service counter. Behind it were display shelves, and behind them, long rows of bins that stretched the length and width of the building. Straight ahead, through an open doorway, I could see the loading dock and a yard cluttered with soil, pipe, and other supplies. On my right was a windowed office with two desks. Neither occupied. An old man in a pair of baggy brown slacks, a brown vest, a battered slouch hat stood before a side counter under the windows. The old man didn't look up when I came into the office. A foul-smelling cigar danced in his thin mouth as he shuffled papers. I cleared my throat and said, "Excuse me." He looked up then grudgingly. "What is it?" "Are you Mr. Harlan?" "That's right." I told him who I was and what I did. I was about to ask about Collie when a couple of guys came into the office, and one of them plucked himself down at the nearest desk. I said to Carlin, "Can we talk somewhere private?" "Why? What do you hear about?" "Collie Babcock," I said. He made a grunting sound, scribbled on one of his papers with a pencil stub, and then led me onto the dock. We walked along there, past a warehouse man loading crated cast iron sinks from a pallet into a pickup truck, and up the wide double-doored entrance to an adjoining warehouse. The old man stopped and turned to me. "We can talk here." "Fine." "You were Collie's supervisor, is that right?" "Yeah, I was." Tell me how you felt about him. You won't hear anything bad if that's what you're looking for." "No, that's not what I'm looking for." He considered that for a moment, then shrugged and said, "Collie was a good worker. Did what you told him. No fuss. Quiet sort. Kept to himself mostly." You knew about his prison record?" "I knew. All of us here did. Nothing was ever said to Collie about it, though. I saw to that." "Did he seem happy with his job?" "Happy enough," Harlan said. "Never complained, if that's what you mean." "No friction with any of the other men?" "No, he got along with everyone." A horn sounded from inside the adjoining warehouse, and a yellow forklift carrying a pallet of lavatories came out. We stepped out of the way as the thing clanked and belched past. I asked Harlan, "When you heard about what happened to Collie last night, what was your reaction?" "Didn't believe it." He said, "Still don't. None of us do." I nodded. "Did Collie have any particular friend here, someone he ate lunch with regularly, something like that?" "Kept to himself for the most part, like I said. But he stopped with Sam Baylor for a beer a time or two after work," Sam mentioned it. "I'd like to talk to Baylor, if that's all right." "It is with me," the old man said. He paused, chewing on his cigar. "Listen, there any chance Collie didn't do what the paper said?" "There might be. That's what I'm trying to figure out." "Anything I can do," he said, "you let me know." "I'll do that." We went back inside, and I spoke to Sam Beeler, a tall, slender guy with a mane of silver hair that gave him, despite his work clothes, a rather distinguished appearance. "I don't mind telling you," he said. "I don't believe a damn word of it. I'd have to be there to see it with my own eyes before I'd believe it, and maybe not even then. I understand you and Collie stopped for a beer occasionally." Once a week, maybe after work. Not a bar. Collie couldn't go to a bar because of his parole at my place. Then afterwards, I'd give him a ride home." Uh, what did you talk about?" "The job, mostly," Beeler said. What the company could do to improve things out here in the warehouse. I guess, the way fellows talk. Uh-huh. Anything else? About Collie's past? That what you're getting at?" "Yes. Just once," Beeler said. "Collie told me a few things, but I never pressed about it. I don't like to pry." What was it he told you? That he was never going to go back to prison. That he was through with that kind of life he'd led before. Wheeler's eyes sparked, as if he was challenging me. And you know something? I've been on this earth for 59 years. I've known a lot of men at that time. You get so you can tell. Tell what, Mr. Wheeler? Collie wasn't lying, he said. I spent an hour at the main branch of the Library Civic Center, reading through old back issues of the Chronicle and the Examiner. The Glen Park robberies had begun a month and a half ago, and I had paid only passing attention to them at the time. I think I gotta close this door again. I am tired, but I pushed off trying to make some of these videos for a while, so I guess I gotta just start doing it now, you know? I'm tired. No audience in after 36 minutes, but I don't know. Maybe it still serves as yet another video, so I closed the door, took another sip of my coffee. Probably a little late for coffee, frankly, and now I'm going to continue reading. Probably as soon as I finish this story, I'll do a quick outro because my wife will take the baby across town. So I'm more than halfway through the story, I believe, and I will continue reading. I spent an hour at the main branch of the library and civic center, reading through back issues of the Chronicle and Examiner. The Glen Park robberies had begun a month and a half ago, and I paid only passing attention to them at the time. When I had acquainted myself with the details, I went back to my office and checked in with my answering service. No calls. Then I called Lucille Babcock. The police were here earlier, she said. They had a search warrant. Did they find anything? There was nothing to find. What did they say? They asked a lot of questions. They wanted to know about bank accounts and safe deposit boxes. Did you cooperate with them? Of course. Good, I said. I told her what I'd been doing all day. What did the people I talked to with had said? You see, she said, nobody who knew Collie can believe he was guilty. Nobody but the police. Damn the police, she said. I sat holding the phone. There were things I wanted to say, but they all seemed trite and meaningless. Pretty soon, I told her I'd be in touch, leaving it at that and putting the receiver back on its cradle. It was almost 5 o'clock. I locked up the office, drove home to my flat in Pacific Heights. Huh. Back in the day in San Francisco, they used to call an apartment a flat. I thought that was more of like a British-ism, huh? Interesting. Drank a beer and ate a pastrami sandwich and lit a cigarette and dialed Eberhardt's home number. It was his gruff voice that answered. Did you stop by robbery before you left the hall, I asked. Yeah. I don't know why. We're friends, that's why. That didn't stop you from being a pain in my ass sometimes. Can I come over, Eb? If you can get here before 8 o'clock, he said. I'm going to bed then, and Dana has orders to bar all the doors and windows and take the telephone off the hook. I plan to get a good night's sleep for a change. I'll be there in 20 minutes, I said. Eberhardt lived in No Valley up at the back near Twin Peaks. The house was big and painted white, a two-storied frame job with a trimmed lawn and lots of flowers in front. You knew Eberhardt. The house was a sort of symbolic. It typified everything the honest, hard-working cop was dedicated to protecting. I had a hunch he knew it too, and if he did, he got a certain amount of satisfaction from the knowledge. That was the way he was. I parked in his sloping driveway and went up and rang the bell. His wife Dana, a slender and very attractive brunette with a lot of patience, let me in. Asked how I was, and showed me to the kitchen, closing the door behind her as she left. Eberhard was sitting at the table having a pipe and a cup of coffee. Cup of coffee at night. The bruise over his eye had been smeared with some kind of pinkish ointment. It made him look rather silly, but I knew better than to tell him so. Have a seat, he said, and I had one. You want some coffee? Thanks. He gave me a cup that indicated a manila envelope lying on the table. Without saying anything, sucking at his pipe, he made an elaborate effort to ignore me as I picked the envelope and opened it. Inside was a report made by two patrolmen, Avanisi and Carstairs, who had shot and killed Collie Babcock in the back of robbing the budget liquor store. I read it over carefully, and my eyes caught one part, a couple of sentences under effects. When I was through, I put the report back in the envelope and returned it to the table. Eberhard looked at me. Well, one item, I said. That wasn't in the papers. What's that? They found a pint of Kessler's in a bag and a paper bag in Collie's coat pocket. He shrugged. It was a liquor store, wasn't it? Maybe he slipped it in his pocket on the way out. And put it into a paper bag first. People do funny things, he said. Yeah, I said. I drank some of the coffee and then got up to my feet. I'll let you go to bed, Eb. Thanks again. He grunted. You owe me a favor, just remember that. I won't forget. You and the elephants, he said. It was still raining the next morning, another dismal day. I drove over to Chenary Street and wedged my car into a downhill parking slot, a half block from the three-room apartment Lucille and Collie Babcock had called home for the past year. I hurried through the rain, feeling a chill of it on my face, and mounted swagging wooden steps to the door. Lucille answered immediately. She wore the same black dress she had on yesterday, and the same controlled mask of grief. It would be a long time before that grief faded, and she was able to get on with her life. Maybe never, unless someone proved her right about Collie's innocence. I sat in the old stuffed leather chair by the window. Collie's chair, Lucille said. Can I get you something? I shook my head. What about you? Have you eaten anything today? Or yesterday? No, she answered. You have to eat, Lucille. Maybe later. Don't worry. I'm not suicidal. I won't starve myself to death. I managed a small smile. All right, I said. Why are you here? She asked. Do you have any news? No, not yet. I have an idea, but it was only that, and too early. I didn't want to instill any false hopes. I just wanted to ask you a few more questions. Oh, what questions? You mentioned yesterday that Collie liked to take walks in the evening. Was he in the habit of walking to any places in particular or any particular direction? No, Lucille said. He just liked to walk. He was gone for a couple of hours sometimes. He never told you where he'd been? Just here or there in the neighborhood. Here and there in the neighborhood, I thought. The alley where Collie had been shot was 11 blocks from this apartment. He could have walked in a straight line, or he could have gone roundabout in any direction. I asked Collie liked to have a nightcap when he came back from these walks, didn't he? Yes, he did. He kept liquor there then. One bottle of bourbon, that's it. I rotated my hat to my hands. I wonder if I could have a small drink, Lucille. I know it's early, but... She nodded and got up and went to a squat cabinet near the kitchen. She slid the panel open in front, looked inside, then straightened away. I'm sorry, she said. I seem to be out. I stood. It's okay. I should be going anyways. Where will you go now? To see some people, I paused. Would you happen to have a photograph of Collie? A snapshot, something like that? I think so. Why do you want it? I might need it to show around, I said, here in the neighborhood. She seemed satisfied with that. I'll see if I can find one for you. I waited while she went into the bedroom. A couple of minutes later, she returned with a black and white snap of collie, head and shoulders, that had been taken in a park somewhere. He was smiling, one eyebrow raised, in mock raffishness. I put the snap in my pocket and thanked Lucille and told her I would be in touch again pretty soon. Then I went to the door and let myself out. The skies seemed to have parted like the Red Sea. Drops of rain as big as hail pellets lashed the sidewalk. Thunder rumbled in the distance, edging closer. I pulled the collar of my overcoat tight around my neck and made a run for my car. It was after 4 o'clock when I came inside a place called Tay's Liquors on Whitney Street and stood dripping water on the floor. There was a heater on a shelf just inside the door, and I allowed myself the luxury of its warmth for a few seconds. Then I crossed the counter. A young guy wearing a white shirt and a Hitler mustache got up from a stool near the cash register and walked over to me. He smiled, letting me see crooked teeth that weren't very clean. Wet enough for you, he said. No, I thought. I want it to be a lot wetter so I can drown. Dumb question, dumb answer. But all I got was, maybe you can help me. Sure, he said. Name your poison. He was brimming with originality. It took the snapshot of Collie Babcock from my pocket, extended it across the counter, and asked, Did you see this man 2 nights ago? Sometime around 11 o'clock. It was the same thing I had done, the same question I had asked at least 20 times already. I'd been driving and along the streets of Glen Park for 4 hours now, and I had been to 4 liquor stores, 5 corner groceries, 2 large chain markets, a delicatessen, that's embarrassing, and half a dozen bars that sold off-sale liquor. So far, I'd come up with nothing except possibly a head cold. The young guy gave me a slanted look. Cop? He asked, but his voice was still cheerful. I showed him the photo stats of my investigator's license. He shrugged, then studied the photo. Yeah, he said finally. I did see this fellow a couple nights ago. Nice old duck. We talked for about the 49ers. I stopped feeling cold and stopped feeling frustrated. I said, about what time did he come in? Let's see, 11:30 or so. I think 15 minutes before Collie had been shot in an alley 3.5 blocks away. Do you remember what he bought? Bourbon, a pint, medium price, Kessler's. Oh yeah, I think it was. Okay, good. What's your name? My name. Hey, wait a minute. I don't want to get involved in anything. Don't worry, it's not what you're thinking. It took a little bit more convincing, but he gave me his name finally, and I wrote it down in my notebook. And I thanked him and hurried out of there. I had something more than an idea now. Okay, I just had a notification on my watch. I do apologize. No one's watching. Who am I apologizing for? But me or two. But maybe I should still maintain some kind of formality. I'm sorry. I should probably narrate what I'm doing, so that way, should probably narrate a little bit of what I'm doing, huh? Okay. Yeah. Oh, cool. It says Rum Mod is now following you. Well, I don't know if Rum Mod is here, but thank you for following me. I now have one person following me on Locals. That's very cool, and I very much appreciate it. That will definitely make my day, and especially whenever I tell my wife in a bit. Okay, well, let me continue reading, despite how illiterate I probably sound, and I will blame that on being tired and all that stuff. Okay, Eberhardt said, I ought to knock you flat on your ass. He had just come out of his bedroom, eyes foggy with sleep, hair standing straight up, wearing a wine-colored bathrobe. Dana stood beside him looking fretful. "I'm sorry I woke you, Eb," I said, "but I didn't think you'd be in bed this early. It's only 6 o'clock." He said something I didn't hear, but that Dana heard. She cracked him on the arm to show her disapproval, then turned and left us alone. Eberhard, oh my gosh, went over and sat on the couch and glared at me. "I've had about 6 hours sleep in the past 48, he said. "I got called out last night after you left. I didn't get home until 3 a.m. I was up at 7. I worked all goddamn day and knocked off early so I can get some sleep. And what happens? I'm in bed 10 minutes and you show up. Eb, it's important." "What is?" Collie Babcock. "Ah, Christ. You don't give up, do you?" "Sometimes I do, but not this time. Not now." I I told him what I had learned about the guy at Tay's Liquors. "So Babcock bought a drink there," Eberhard said. "So what? If he was planning to burglarize a liquor store, do you think he'd have bothered to buy a 15 minutes before, to buy a bottle 15 minutes before? Hell, the job could have been a spur of the moment. Collie didn't work that way. When he was pulling them, they were all carefully planned well in advance. Always." "Well, he was getting old. People change. You don't know Colin. Besides, there are a few other things, such as the burglaries themselves. They were all done the same way. Backdoor jimmied, marks on the jam, and lock made with a hand bar or something." I paused. "They didn't find any tool like that on Collie, or inside the store either. Maybe got rid of it. When did he have the time? They caught him coming out the door." Eberhard scowled. "I had his interest now. Go ahead," he said. "The pattern of the burglaries. Like I was saying, the doors jimmied, drawers rifled, papers and things strewn about. No fingerprints, but smacks of amateurism. Or somebody trying to make it look like amateurism. And Babcock was a professional. Um, he, uh, he, he could have done it by the book," I said. "He used lockpicks and glass cutters to get into a place, never anything like a handbar. He didn't ransack. He always knew exactly what he was after. He never deviated from that, Ebb, not once." Eberhard got to his feet and paced around for a time. Then he stopped in front of me and said, "So what do you think then?" "You figure it." "Yeah," he said slowly. "I can't figure it all right. But I don't like it. I don't like it at all." "And Collie," I said, you think he liked it?" Eberhard turned abruptly, went to the telephone. He spoke to someone at the Hall of Justice. Then someone else. When he hung up, he was already shrugging out of his bathrobe. He gave me a grim look. Okay. "I hope you're wrong. You know that." "I hope I'm not," I said. I was sitting in my flat reading one of those pulps from my collection of several thousand issues when the telephone rang just before 11 o'clock. It was Eberhard, and the first thing he said was, "You weren't wrong." I didn't say anything, waiting. "Avenisi and Carstairs," he said bitterly, "each of them on the force a little more than 2 years. The old story, bills, long hours, not enough pay, and greed. They took up the idea one night when they were cruising Glen Park, and it worked just fine until 2 nights ago. Who'd figure the cops for it? You have any trouble with them?" "No. I wish they'd given me some so I could have slapped them with a resisting arrest charge, too." "How'd it happen with Collie?" "It was the other way around," he said. "Babcock was cutting through the alley when he saw them coming out of the rear door. He turned to run, and they panicked, and Avenisi shot him in the back. When they went to check, Carstairs found a note from Babcock's parole officer in one of his pockets, identifying him as an ex-con. That's when they decided to frame him." "Look, Eb, Forget it," he said. "I know what you're going to say. You can't help it if a couple of cops turn out that way. I said, forget it, all right? And the line went dead. I listened to the empty buzzing for a couple of seconds. It's a lousy world, I thought, but sometimes at least there is justice. Then I called Lucille Babcock, and I told her why her husband had died. They had a nice funeral for Collie. The services were held in a small non-denominational church on Monterey Boulevard. There was a lot of flowers, carnations mostly. Lucille said they had been Collie's favorites. Quite a few people came. Tommy Belknap was there, and Sam Beeler, and an old man Harlan, and the rest of them from D.E. O'Meara. Ed Hart, too, which might have seemed surprising unless you knew him. I also saw faces I didn't recognize. The whole thing had gotten a big play in the media. Afterwards, there was a funeral procession to the cemetery in Colma, where we listened to the minister's final words and watched them put Collie into the ground. When it was done, I offered to drive Lucille home, but she said no. There were some arrangements there. She wanted to make with the caretaker for upkeep of the plot. One of her neighbors would stay with her and see to it she had got home all right. Then she held my hand and kissed me on the cheek and told me again how grateful she was. I went to where my car was parked. Ed Hart was waiting. He had ridden down with me. I don't like funerals, he said. No, I said. We got into the car. So what are you planning to do when we get back to the city? Eberhard asked. I hadn't thought about it. Come over to my place. Dana's gone off to visit her sister. I've got a refrigerator full of beer. All right. Maybe we'll get drunk, he said. I nodded. Maybe we will at that. Okay, well, I think this live stream was, just about as long as I was hoping. Actually, a bit longer because I had kind of redone it because I had this thing kind of wrong with the background thingy or whatever. Not just having the camera show me. So I don't think I did a super great job reading this. And I think part of it's I'm tired and maybe out of practice for reading that. I mean, of course, I read more children-ish stories at this point out loud. And thank you very much. It seemed like one person must have clicked on this, and I am extremely grateful for that. I'll be very much bragging to my wife in a bit. Unless there are more views, and this thing just doesn't tell me that or something properly. But I'm going to guess not. I don't know. So with that, I'm going to go on my locals account for a minute, and then I'm going to get off of this. I appreciate your time very much, and this has been long enough. See ya. Bye.